Promised, I'm going to walk you through one of these recommendation reports. I'm going to show you the parts and pieces, and I'm going to tell you the things that I want you to be thinking about relative to these parts and pieces. Okay, so we're going to take this step by step. So here's a recommendation report that was produced for this class last semester, and this one responds to the scenario where you have to recommend a consumer-grade thermometer to a nonprofit which helps mothers with sick children catch fevers and prevent serious medical consequences. So the first thing that you're going to probably create for your recommendation report is some type of cover page. It should include a title to the report, who it's written to, who it was written by. You might include an image. Notice that this just has a title but no other real information. Here are the thermometers that this particular report looks at, and so they've just included images. That's optional. You don't have to do that. A table of contents just so that somebody could navigate this particular report relatively easily. You're going to say, oh my God, this is 13 pages, but I think once you see how it's broken up, you'll realize that it's not really 13 pages. We have an executive summary here, and so let me tell you a little bit about executive summaries. So a lot of times when we write longer reports, we have to imagine that folks are not going to have enough time to read the entire report. And so when we write executive summaries, we have an executive in mind, somebody, a high-ranking official, somebody who's probably reading a lot of reports or a lot of information on a day-to-day basis. And basically we're giving them the Cliff's Notes version, which covers the entire scope of our report. What we did, how we did it, what we found, what it means. And so an executive summary is just a really nice way to break down the entire report in a very small package so that somebody doesn't have to read the 1,800 words that this document is, but can get an overview of it relatively quickly. Now, of course, if they have questions or they want to see specific data or they want to make comparisons for themselves, they obviously have the option to, but a lot of times folks will read an executive summary just to get a 50,000-foot view of what happened and what was discovered. This particular report has an introduction which explains the criteria that the folks are using. I think that's really critical. So you're probably going to be comparing multiple solutions to a problem, and it's important for you to be comparing apples to apples. So in this case, they've broken it down to accuracy, time, comfort, ease of use, battery expectancy, features, and price. And they probably generated those criteria based on their audience. So thinking about what their audience probably cared about. And so this was their lens, or this was the way that they looked at all of the consumer-grade thermometers that were on the market. And so, they clearly list here not only what the criteria is, but what it means. One of the things I really want you to think about, anytime you're writing a report, it's very important for your information to be transparent. You want the reader to know how you came to the conclusions that you did. In some ways, a report should be something that's relatively replicable, that somebody else could pick up your information, look at your methods, and do the same thing. So you want to be able to express, for instance, how you measure certain things. Now, some of those things are going to be really easy to measure. Price, for instance, is very easy to measure. You just look at a number, it's quantifiable, and you go, okay, this one's more expensive or less expensive. There are going to be other things that are less quantifiable. Like when we look at things and we want to talk about durability. Well, how do we measure the durability of something? And so you have to come up with and express and explain to your reader how you measured those things that are not obvious. And I really want you to think about that. And so you have to come up with that and share that. And again, the goal here is that somebody could use your same methods or your same criteria and draw a similar conclusion because you've made it easy for them to replicate and to understand. This is particularly important if you're writing about something that's relatively complex or technical, something that maybe makes good sense to you and it seems natural to you. You're going to have to explain that in a way that your reader can understand. So this is where our definition writing is going to come back into play, and this is where thinking about the significance to the reader is going to come into play. So at some point in your report, you are going to have to express, here are the things I considered when I was helping you make this decision. These are my criteria, and here's how I assessed those criteria. Okay? You're also probably going to want to express how you came to look at the options that you did of all the available thermometers out there. How did you come to these three? Was it that they were the most popular, that they fit a certain set of initial criteria, they were at the right price point? What was it? Then what you're going to do in kind of the second half of your report is you're just going to share what you found relative to the criteria that you assessed. So in this case, here's their page about accuracy. And so what they're essentially going to do is they're going to explain here is how each of the thermometers performed relative to accuracy. They do the same thing with time to reading. They do the same thing with comfort. What comfort features does it have? Is it more or less comfortable for the child? Ease of use, battery expectancy, features. They've used a table here. Now remember, when you're writing this report, I really don't care how you format it. I don't care how you deliver the information. What's most important to me is that you clearly express, here's what we did and how we did it. Here's what we found. You can see the comparisons, draw the conclusions yourself, and then ultimately you're going to make a recommendation based on the research that you've done, that the solution that you're presenting is in fact the best option. Here's one for price. And then here's the conclusion. Now, this conclusion is a little bit on the skimpy side, but you really want to walk your reader through based on their needs, based on their position, based on what they care about. Here's the best solution to that problem. And so that's fundamentally what this report is. You have a lot of leeway in terms of how you format it and how you present the information, but what's most important is that you are clear and transparent and methodical in the way that you've developed the report, and that you share that with your reader, that you share where you got your information from, how you came up with the criteria, how you weighed the criteria, so which ones are the most important, which ones are the least important, and you're going to logically walk them through and explain the method to your madness. How did you come to the conclusion that you came to? And so that's fundamentally what we're up against, folks, and I have no doubt that you all are going to come up with great solutions to this, but I think as you can see here, this assignment really embodies all of the things that we've been working on. You're going to have to be very mindful of your audience. You're going to have to be very mindful of your purpose. You're going to have to be very mindful of how you organize and deliver the report. You're going to have to be very cautious of your language. You're going to have to think very carefully about where you put certain information on the page. There's just a lot of moving parts here, but I have no doubt that with some careful reflection and using the time that we have left in the semester, you're going to be able to come up with a very effective report that explains to a reader how you would propose solving their problem, whether it's a heating system or thermometers or tablets, or it could be a new policy. You're just going to walk them through, here's what the problem is, here are the available solutions, here's why the solution that I'm presenting is the best one. And how you do that is largely up to you, and I realize that each of these reports is going to look different based on the scenario that you are supplied with, or the scenario that you cook up for yourself. So while this is an example, and while you'll see 2 more examples posted in the Week 13 folder, you can certainly freelance and sort of improvise as you see fit. What I'm going to expect from you at the end is a little bit of a reflection that says, hey Mike, here's what I did and why I did it, and here's why it makes good sense for my reader. And as long as you can make strong arguments for why you did what you did, we're going to be in good shape, because fundamentally that's what writing is all about. Writing is a series of decisions that we make, and as long as we're strategic and intentional about those decisions, and as long as we're calibrating those decisions based on our audience and our purpose and our rhetorical situation, and that is our communicative situation, we're probably doing the right things. Where writing tends to fall apart is when we're not intentional and not strategic about those decisions, and we just do them either because they're the path of least resistance, or it's the first thing that came to our mind, or we saw somebody else do it. Okay, and so that's what we're trying to avoid here. So as long as you're being intentional and methodical in the way that you're making your decisions about presenting the solution to this problem, I think fundamentally we are going to be on the right track. And don't worry, there's going to be more scaffolding or more helpful instruction about how to approach this assignment going into week 14. And then in week 15, which is the final week of the semester, that's when I'm going to expect this to be done. So you're going to have plenty of time to work on this. And I think that you'll find that it's a pretty interesting assignment to work on, and you're going to be researching things that you have a genuine interest and knowledge about. So you're going to be able to write with a level of confidence and a command of the information. So thanks for listening.